My brother took all my inheritance saying I didn't deserve it, but he started sweating cold when Hello, my name is Anna Carolina, but you can call me Carol. I'm 34 years old and I work as a nurse at a public hospital here in São Paulo. I never thought I'd be here sharing this story with you, but I feel I need to tell someone. Maybe you've been through something similar, or know someone who has. In any case, this is a story about family, betrayal, justice, and how sometimes life teaches us lessons we never expected to learn. I'll start from the beginning, because I believe you need to understand the whole context to grasp what happened next. My mother, Dona Helena, was a simple woman, but with a huge heart. She worked her whole life as a seamstress, making custom clothes for the wealthier families in town. She woke up every day at 5 a.m. I had her black coffee and was already at the sewing machine by 6 sharp. The sound of that old singer was the soundtrack of my childhood. Dad died when I was only 12, a sudden heart attack at 45 years old. I remember like it was yesterday, the day we came home from the hospital without him. Mom locked herself in her room and cried for 3 days straight. On the 4th day, she came out, wiped her tears, and said, "Now I'm the one who takes care of you two." Oh, I forgot to mention my older brother, Roberto. He was 16 at the time and was always the golden boy of the family. Smart, charismatic, handsome, everything parents dream of in a son. I, on the other hand, was always the problem child. Not that I was bad, but I was quieter, more introverted, and maybe that's why Mom always showed special concern for me. After Dad died, Roberto changed completely. He started seeing himself as the man of the house and treated both Mom and me with an authority he never had before. At 18, he left home to study business administration at a private university, entirely funded by Mom's sacrifices, of course. While Roberto was at college living his student life, I stayed home helping Mom. I finished high school studying at night and working during the day at a clothing store. Every cent I earned, I gave to Mom to help with expenses. It wasn't much, but she always said every penny made a difference. When I turned 19, I told Mom I wanted to study nursing. I always wanted to take care of people, maybe because I saw how she took care of everyone around us. I remember she was silent for a few minutes, mentally calculating the costs, and then said, "If that's what you want, my daughter, we'll find a way." And she did. Mom worked even harder, sometimes until late at night to pay for my college. I kept working and studying, but she insisted on covering most of the costs. "Education is the only real inheritance I can leave you," she always said. Roberto graduated and got a job at a multinational company. He earned well, very well even, but rarely sent money home. When Mom needed something and I couldn't help, she practically had to beg him. He always made excuses. He was saving to buy an apartment, had high expenses in the big city, needed to invest in his career. In 2018, Mom started complaining of stomach pains. At first, we thought it was gastritis from stress and irregular meals, but the pain got worse, and I, already a nurse, insisted she get more detailed exams. The diagnosis hit like a punch in the gut: pancreatic cancer, advanced stage. I remember leaving the doctor's office holding Mom's hand, both of us completely silent. In the car, she finally spoke. "Carol, I don't want to be a burden to you." I stopped the car in the middle of the street and cried. I cried like I hadn't since Dad died. I called Roberto right away. He listened to everything in silence and only said, "I'll try to come over on the weekend." Try to come? Our mother had cancer and he was going to try to come? The next 2 years were the hardest and paradoxically the most precious of my life. I reduced my hours at the hospital to care for Mom. She had chemotherapy, radiotherapy, went through 2 surgeries. I was there at every appointment, every hospitalization, every night of pain. Roberto showed up once in a while, always in a hurry, always with his phone in hand dealing with important work stuff. When he was physically present, his mind was elsewhere. Mom noticed, of course, but never complained. On the contrary, she always defended him. "He's working a lot, Carol. It's understandable." During that time, Mom told me many things about her life, her dreams, her fears. One thing she always repeated was how proud she was of me. "You're strong, Carol, stronger than you think, and you have a good heart, just like your father." In one of those conversations, she told me she had some savings and wanted to leave everything organized. "It's not much, but it's the fruit of a lifetime of work. I want you two to split everything equally." I tried to change the subject. I didn't like to think about losing her. Mom passed away on a Tuesday morning in March 2020, right at the start of the pandemic. She died at home, as she always wanted, holding my hand. Roberto arrived 2 hours after she was gone. He cried a lot, and for a moment I thought I had finally found the brother I knew as a child. The funeral was small, due to pandemic restrictions. Only a few close relatives and neighbors who loved Mom could attend. Roberto organized everything, and I must admit, he did a good job. He spoke beautifully at the funeral, recalled childhood stories, moved everyone. For a few days, we were a family again. A week after the funeral, Roberto called me to settle practical matters. We sat at the kitchen table in the house where we grew up, surrounded by Mom's memories, and he laid some papers on the table. "Carol, we need to talk about the inheritance," he said, assuming that business-like tone that always bothered me. Mom had left the house we lived in, a small savings account with about 80,000 reais, the result of years of extreme saving, and some jewelry from our grandmother. It wasn't a fortune, but it represented a whole life of work and sacrifice. "Look, Carol," he continued, "I've been thinking, and I think the fairest thing is for me to keep everything." I thought I hadn't heard right. "What do you mean?" "Think about it," he said, speaking slowly, as if explaining something obvious to a child. "I have an established career, a family to support, bigger responsibilities. You're single, have no kids, and already have your job at the hospital. I can make better use of this money." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Roberto, Mom explicitly said she wanted us to split everything." "Oh, Carol, you know how sentimental she was. She didn't think practically. Besides," he paused deliberately, "I was the one who paid for the funeral, who's dealing with all the paperwork. You didn't even really go to college. Mom paid for everything for you." That last sentence hit me like a dagger. "Roberto, I took care of her for 2 years. I put my life on hold, reduced my work, was there every day. Yeah, you took care of her because you had nothing better to do. I was building a career, supporting a family. My sacrifices were bigger." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The man in front of me wasn't the brother I grew up with, but a cold, calculating stranger. "Besides," he continued, "do you really think you deserve an inheritance? Mom spent much more money on you than on me. Your college, your expenses. Actually, I should get more to compensate." I left that conversation in shock. Roberto gave me 2 weeks to think calmly and see reason, as if there was anything to think about. He was literally stealing my inheritance, and still had the audacity to say I didn't deserve it. I spent days unable to sleep properly. The betrayal hurt more than the loss of the money itself. It was as if I'd lost not just my mother, but also my brother. A week later, while sorting through Mom's things, Roberto didn't even offer to help. I found a shoebox hidden at the back of her wardrobe. Inside were documents, old photos, and some letters. One caught my attention because it was in a newer envelope, with my name written in Mom's shaky handwriting. I opened it with trembling hands. "My dear Carol, if you're reading this, it's because I'm no longer here. I hope you and Roberto managed to agree on dividing things, but I know my children and I know there may be problems. I want you to know I've always been very proud of who you've become. You have your father's heart and the determination I wish I'd had. You cared for me with a love I'll never forget, even if I'm not here anymore to thank you in person. That's why, my daughter, besides the inheritance I left officially, there's something else. All these years, I've been saving money in an account I opened just in your name. Every real I saved from my extra work, every cent left from the money Roberto sometimes sent, every coin I found on the ground. It all went into this account. The details are in the envelope with this letter. It's 247,000 reais, Carol. It's almost everything I managed to save in my life, working double to make sure you had something of your own, no matter what. Use this money to be happy. Travel, study more if you want, buy your own house, or simply save it to feel secure. You deserve it, my daughter. You deserve it for being the daughter I always dreamed of having. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't deserve anything in this life. You deserve everything good the world can offer. With all my love, Mom. P.S. If Roberto gives you trouble, use this money to hire the best lawyer you can. Don't let anyone walk all over you. I had to read the letter 3 times to believe it was real. My hands were shaking so much I could barely hold the paper. Mom had foreseen exactly what would happen, and even sick and in pain, had found a way to protect me. I ran to the bank the same day. Everything was there, exactly as she said. A savings account with 247,000 reais, opened 8 years ago, with small but steady deposits. My mother had worked in silence, as she always did, to secure my future. 2 days later, Roberto showed up at home with some property transfer papers. He was confident, smiling, as if he was doing humanity a favor. Carol, I brought the documents. Just sign here and here, and that's it. We'll settle this civilly. I looked at my brother, this man who was once my childhood hero, and felt a mix of pity and disgust. Roberto, I'm not signing anything. He sighed, as if dealing with a stubborn child. Carol, we've already talked about this. Be rational. You're right. Let's be rational, I said, picking up my phone. How about we start by calling Dr. Mendez? Dr. Mendez was the family lawyer, a 70-year-old man who'd known our family for decades. Roberto turned a bit pale. Why call a lawyer? We can settle this between us. Of course we can, especially now that I have the resources to hire the best inheritance lawyer in São Paulo. That was when I saw my brother sweat cold for the first time. Literally. Small drops of sweat appeared on his forehead. What resources, Carol? What are you talking about? I put the bank statements on the table, along with Mom's letter. These resources, Roberto. 47,000 reais that our mother managed to save and left in an account just for me. His face turned white as a sheet. He grabbed the documents with trembling hands, read quickly, then looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. A mix of shock, fear, and maybe even respect. How did she manage to save so much money? By working double while you spent her money on your college life, saving every penny while you bought brand-name clothes, doing extra sewing late at night while you slept peacefully in your apartment. Roberto was silent for several minutes, just staring at the papers. And you know what else, Roberto? I continued. I'm going to use part of this money to hire not just one, but two lawyers. One to make sure I get exactly half of everything Mom left officially, as she wanted, and another to investigate if you hid any other assets of hers. The sweat was now visibly running down his forehead. Carol, I didn't hide anything. Are we sure? Because one thing I learned taking care of Mom is that when someone is lying, they get nervous. And you're sweating a lot for such a cold day, Roberto. What happened in the following weeks was almost cinematic. I hired not just one, but 3 different lawyers, a specialist in inheritance law, a private investigator specializing in hidden assets, and a criminal lawyer, just to be sure. The investigation revealed things I hadn't even imagined. Roberto had indeed omitted information. We discovered that Mom had a small lawsuit won against a health insurance company, which yielded 35,000 reais 3 months before she died, money that Roberto received and forgot to mention. Also, he had sold some of Grandma's jewelry before the estate was even settled. But the biggest discovery was another. Roberto was being investigated by the Federal Revenue Service for tax evasion. When my lawyers found this out and suggested we could provide additional information to the authorities, my brother finally gave in. Roberto came to see me at home on a Thursday night. He was visibly shaken, with deep circles under his eyes and a disheveled appearance I'd never seen in him. Carol, we need to talk. I'm listening now, Roberto. I want to propose a deal. I stayed silent, waiting. You keep your share of the official inheritance, the 40,000 from the savings, half the value of the house, half the jewelry. I'll return the 35,000 from the lawsuit, and we forget about this further investigation. And the money from the jewelry you already sold? He sighed heavily. I'll return that too. Fine, but there's one more condition. He looked at me apprehensively. You're going to write a letter of apology. Not to me, but to Mom's memory. A letter admitting she didn't deserve the disrespect you showed, and that I don't deserve to be treated as less than you. Roberto was silent for a long time. Finally, he nodded. That was 4 years ago. Roberto kept the agreement to the letter, returned everything he had hidden, and wrote the letter I asked for. Interestingly, after that, our relationship improved. We're not as close as before, but there's a mutual respect that didn't exist for a long time. With the money Mom left me, I bought a small but cozy apartment. I used part of it to specialize in palliative care, a way to honor everything I learned caring for her. The rest is invested, giving me the financial security she always wanted me to have. Sometimes I think about how wise Mom was. She knew her children better than we knew ourselves. She knew Roberto would be greedy, knew I'd need protection, and found a silent but effective way to ensure justice. The lesson I take from this story is simple. Never let anyone tell you that you don't deserve something. Sometimes life tests us, puts us in situations where we have to fight for what's rightfully ours. And when that happens, fight. Fight with intelligence, with dignity, but fight. Mom taught me that a person's worth isn't in what they own, but in the love they're able to give and receive. It took Roberto years to understand that, but he eventually did. I always knew, because I was lucky enough to learn from the best teacher in the world. And you? Have you ever had to fight for what was rightfully yours? Sometimes the battle isn't just for money or assets, but for dignity, for respect, for the memory of those we love. Thank you for listening. I hope my story can, in some way, help someone going through something similar. Justice doesn't always come easy, but when it does, it's sweet. And Mom, wherever you are, thank you for protecting me even after you were gone. You were right. I am stronger than I thought I was.